Tammy, can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So we are a chamber that started in 2015 as a registered organization. We have our mission in which we believe that technology obliges. In order to reach that goal, we have three major focuses. Three of the ones we actually are able to enable technology, not only for the benefit of Europe and the mankind, but as well for the world. And we do that with three major goals. That will be the competitiveness, the growth, and the sustainability. So for us, it's not just about the business opportunities, it's as well about how you can create an impact for that. And when I'm saying an impact, it's not just regarding the environment and maybe sustainability aspects. It's maybe about how with the small actions you can make a difference in your local community, to give you just one of the examples. In our structure, we have three different approaches with our areas. The first one is the regional alliances, in which we take into consideration aspects that are very, very unique for each of those territories. As you can imagine, the economy, the business opportunities, but as well the culture makes so unique to run a business or an organization in that specific place. So that's why we have this territory approach to understand how we can help our members to grow, to expand, and to be successful in those markets. The other type of areas that we have is the impact alliances. And in here is getting deeper, is to understand how we can make the difference. So if you think about SDGs, as it is the case of today's webinar, is about understanding and trying to see how we are innovating all around the world in order to approach the UN Sustainable Development Goals. But think about women in tech as well. Inside and through that area is that we're able to work for better opportunities for women, to understand how we can help them in a special way to take their potential even farther. Of course, we do this for all our members, but we have this special area in which we focus especially on them. Now, the last type of areas that we have inside the chamber is the tech alliances. And what we do here is to take into consideration the industries and the sectors. So we would like to understand the small details of all those entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders that are working directly in those industries and sectors. That's how we're able to specialize. Now, regarding UTech, what we offer. We don't offer services. We actually have a toolbox in which you will find tools and programs, and all of them were created in order to help you to expand your business, to make it more sustainable, but as well to understand how you can make that impact that you have been doing so far, maybe locally, maybe nationally, but how you can take it to the other side of the world, okay? We believe that it's very important as well to be able to exchange ideas, to work together with people that belong to different realities. And for that is that we actually organize different events that are online and others that are offline. Indeed, we really, really enjoy to have the opportunity to meet you in person and to have this conversation in person. But as you can imagine, after the pandemic, we haven't been able to do that. But very soon, we hope to be hosting once again these kind of activities, because it will be a pleasure for us to be there with you and understand how we can join forces to work for that same goal. Regarding the networking, of course, as a chamber, for us, it's very important to provide you the opportunity to join forces with the right ones. And when I'm saying that, I'm talking about a potential lead, a potential client, a potential partner, or a potential ally. And this can be from an organization to a company or maybe a public entity. So for all of that is that we have different activities all along the year, and we specialize by sectors, by industries, and as I told you, we take into consideration those territories so that you can actually come to the right meetings and meet that right people. If you actually go to our platform, you're going to be able to see the agenda that we have for each area, all the activities that are about to come. And if you would like to just join us, please just have a look, click over the activity in which you would like to participate, and you can register and join us that day. Now, here you find some of the testimonies from some of the people that have been collaborating, working with us, or that they are already members of the chamber. So as you can see here, we have been trying to create a platform in which we can share knowledge, create awareness, but most of all is to try to join the work, even if we are so far from each other, but just try to join us. Finally, I would like to invite you to have a look to the platform. Again, there you're going to find the activities that we do during the month, during the year. More than that, you will understand deeper about our vision on our tools and programs. But if you would like to ask anything about the chamber, or would like to have a better understanding of what we do and who we are, you can reach Sami, or you can reach me, or any of my colleagues, and we will be very, very happy to guide you through. So thank you so much for your time. This is everything from my side for now. I just would like to wish you a very successful webinar, a very interesting conversation. Thank you, Sami. I will give you back the microphone.
Thank you so much, Maria, for the introduction of the chamber. And for those of you who are interested in the chamber, feel free to follow us at our LinkedIn account, or you can drop a message in the public chat to contact me or Maria. So we will follow up. Thank you again, Maria. And next, we are going to enter into our panel discussion. So before doing that, allow me to introduce a little bit of our panelists today. So first, Arnold. Arnold is the founder and team lead at Champions for Sustainable Development Goals. He is an enthusiastic, result-oriented young champion for meaningful involvement of young people, just and inclusive societies. He uses online platforms as a creative way of reaching out to his peers and carrying out policy advocacy. He envisions the realization of an all-inclusive, equitable global society where the marginalized populations, particularly young people, are well-informed, economically empowered, and actively taking part in the development issues as global citizens, regardless of their background, gender, or socioeconomic status. So welcome you, Arnold. And here with us, yes, welcome. And here with us also Patience. Patience is the co-founder and CEO of Youth4 Africa Link. He's also the board member of our Chamber's Africa Alliance. And Patience is a very passionate and committed communication project management specialist trained in Cairo and the Netherlands, the world's leading agricultural university. She is working to improve the livelihood of underprivileged communities and existing prospective African agribusiness, and the students develop skills and linkages with prospective European investors and educational institutions. From her work experience in the private sector and non-governmental organizations, she has developed better marketing, communication, project management, trade facilitation, and negotiation competencies, and coupled with know-how about EU delegations on food safety from WR, she can safely bridge the gap between the EU market and African communities in a sustainable manner. And welcome, Patience. And so for the panel discussion, there are some questions prepared. And for the first one, I would go with the challenges we have for achieving sustainable development goals. So it is not often that politicians all agree on something, but they did in 2015 that they joined together at UN and agreed that we need to take action that is very urgent. So they created a plan to transform the world into one free of poverty and hunger, and where every child can go to school, where oceans and forests will be around for future generations to enjoy, and where everyone is equal by the year of 2030. So 17 goals in 15 years certainly sounds ambitious. Plus the current, global pandemic, the war between Russia and Ukraine, a polarized world, it is making the goals seem even like a dream. So do you think the Sustainable Development Goals are too ambitious? And in your opinion, what's what makes the goal so difficult to achieve, and what are the challenges we are facing to achieve these goals according to your local experiences? Who wants to go first?
Okay, maybe I I go first. Okay, yeah, Sammy, I want to thank you for organizing the discussion, and thank you also for the amazing introduction. So grateful for that.
It's
Okay, in my
pleasure.
opinion, I think the SDG is ambitious, and today that ambitious is even made clearer because the goal is to experience increase in progress and make a step-by-step transformation change, unlocking our businesses, how we do things, building resilience businesses, and actually enabling long-term growth. The war is delivering progress in this, but more still needs to be done. So, in my opinion, what are the challenges? The first challenge I see is actually that of technology. Because with technology, you can do a lot, especially when it comes to the my target audience with the business that I do is smallholder farmers. Because, say, for example, if they want to do production, sustainable production, for example, it needs technology to be able to achieve that. And if we take inspiration from the pandemic, we saw that technology actually helped us to really spread the message to even the suburbs. So it is indispensable if we have to really achieve this goal. Technology should be at the center. And then another issue that I see, which is also a challenge, is that achieving the SDG goals, in my opinion, can be difficult because so many organizations want to do all of the SDGs all at once, which is a little bit difficult to achieve. I think it will be better for organizations to choose the ones that really suit them better. Because, of course, the SDG cuts across others, and organization, when you are doing a business, you actually do interact with other organizations as well. Say, for example, with this import export, you have to include also the transportation sector, you have to include the law, all these other sectors, they really intertwine in each other. So it is better to you focus on the ones that really partake to your organization and then see how it also impact other sector. So not trying to do all at once, but trying to do the ones that actually partake to your organization. And then finally, I want to say sustainability, of course, when it comes to production, it really gives farmers premium price in the world market. But some people just do that for the name, just to show off or just to look good. Whereas in reality, it's not really the case because, of course, sustainability does not come cheap. People, organizations need maybe a little bit of compensation to be able to carry on sustainability and really in- incorporate that in their development or in their business plan. So for me, these are some of the challenges that I see, and I think we are already doing a really amazing job with this SDG. It's just for us to refocus and then move ahead. Thank you.
So just to pick up on where Patience has stopped, the Sustainable Development Goals, in my opinion, we have some hope in achieving them, in achieving some of the targets by 2030, given that before the SDGs, we actually had the Millennium Development Goals. And those were structured using the environmental, social, and economic structure that the SDGs have been anchored upon. And also, you realize that the SDGs are quite comprehensive in terms of the number of targets and indicators that can help measure progress on certain different aspects of sustainable development for the various member states of the United Nations. the biggest challenge that I see in the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals is education, or the levels of knowledge amongst ordinary citizens, amongst people of the different countries who are member states of the United Nations. And I see target number 4.7 of SDG 4, which speaks about target 4.7 is education for sustainable development. And I think that if we are able to educate everyone about sustainability, about sustainable development goals, about how the environment is important in making sure that we achieve the social and economic aspects of sustainable development, so that we take care of it for our future generations, it's going to go a long way in ensuring that we make progress towards the SDGs. There are countries in which young children have difficulty going to school, especially in the global south, because of access to resources such as school fees, or sometimes even infrastructure in the school is not quite sufficient to cater for each student or each effectively. And also something else that I see as a challenge is a stronger coordinated mechanism could be of great help in helping different sectors within the different countries to make progress towards the SDGs. There is coordinated mechanism, like for example, in Kenya, the SDGs unit under the national government has brought together the different sectors in a multi-stakeholders platform with representatives to evaluate progress on the SDGs every year in the multi-stakeholders forum. However, we need more efforts to strengthen such coordinated mechanisms for people to learn about best practices, so that they can go and implement in their various areas of program implementation. They can make progress towards the indicators that relate to their work. The second last thing I'd like to mention is access to resources or finances or funding sometimes for programs or activities that can contribute to a more sustainable ecosystem. For instance, let me use, maybe a business wants to transition into clean energy and needs to procure some solar panels, put in place the tools or equipment to store the energy and transmit it in a clean manner. They will have to invest in that to make sure that they bring it to fruition. And as you know, there is the war that we have witnessed to some extent has also affected the supply of oil and access to things like fuel to certain places of the world. And as I see it, in case we had transitioned into more sustainable technology, for instance, electric cars, which can be charged using solar power or electric energy as opposed to fuel, could really come in handy to counter some of the challenges that you are facing in the energy sector, for instance. And then lastly is culture. Sometimes culture is very beautiful, and we have culture different across the world, and sometimes it is actually a challenge in in allowing progress in the Sustainable Development Goals, especially those cultures which are very strict on certain ways which might not be considered progressive. For instance, where certain genders are not allowed to own maybe a piece of land, or they are entitled to different things as opposed to, for instance, men might be entitled to owning land, for example, and then ladies are not given the right to do so, and sometimes carrying out different activities or leadership roles within the society is restricted to certain genders. And if you look at these different aspects of culture, they actually bring a challenge in realizing Sustainable Development Goals number 5, which speaks on gender equality and women empowerment, and Sustainable Development Goal number 10, which is about reducing inequalities in terms of economic aspects. Thank you, Sami.
Thank you so much, Patience and Arnold, and for sharing your experience as well. And I agree with all of your points. And right now, I'm feeling that it's too ambitious, the goals. So, but I have to agree. I think it's important to really see the challenges we are having, and then we can know how to improve and to perfect our plan in terms of implementation. I think Patience, you mentioned about the part of technology, the whole ecosystem, and also how to really bring this sustainable development agenda into the core of either organization or in a local place. So make it like a part of like a sector of organization. For example, I can imagine like we have the finance department sector, or we have the finance sector. We should have a sustainable development goals sector, focusing specifically on this, either in the government, in the organization, in non-profit, or in the local city level. So then we have like special people to do that. I think that would be a great idea. We already, I think, see sustainable development goals strategy consultant in companies. So maybe it's a great idea to really make it into like a larger unit. And for Arnold, about education, about the mechanism, about the young people's challenges, school, and also resources, and also about the cultural. I think I can speak a little bit about the cultural part as well. And in this room we have people coming from, as me, from Asia, guys from Africa, and we have audience here from Europe. So we are living in a quite, how to say, a world with great diversity. But I think how to address it, like we can always be peaceful, but we have to always be to respect the culture of each place, right? So it also makes it hard to really bring one's approach which is suitable in all different cultural places. So I think this is a challenge as well. But thank you so much for sharing your opinions on that. My second question is bring to the topic we are talking about, which is decentralization. So we have to define it first, because decentralization varies in different contexts. We can define this word in different contexts, such as in the world, in a country, in the society, in a community, in an organization, or we can define it in different areas. So, but the key point is that I believe it is regarding replanning and decision making. The power is distributed or delegated away from the central. So what is your take on the decentralize the system, how do you evaluate the relationship between decentralization and sustainable development goals?
Okay, let me go for that one. Okay, a decentralized system, in my opinion, is when stakeholders, parties, they come together, and then they make an independent decision, and this independent decision is not all the time based on the central administration. So in that case, they can make decisions that really do address their needs, what they are struggling with. And then with this decision, it can be channeled to the central administration for them together to address it. If you take the case of, say, supplying power or electricity to the continent of Africa, I really strongly believe that a decentralized system is a better way to reach that goal. Because when you see the challenges with this main central system of distributing electricity to this other area, in fact, what works in the city may not necessarily work in the village. So in that case, you have to take into consideration those challenges. And in addition to that, when you take, for example, the power transmission from the central station uh, to the suburbs, for example, it really costs time and it is expensive and cumbersome to do that. So it is better you decentralize the system in such a way that the electricity is produced at the local areas, so that distributing it to the end users is really very easy. So I really think decentralization is something that we really have to take into consideration and also incorporate in our decision making, so as to bring about creativity and just this inclusiveness. Because when you make a decision or you make a solution in such a way that all the stakeholders feel their voices are heard and they are included in the solution, it really makes them to commit and to make that decision work. Otherwise, we will just be going round and round circles and nothing will be done at the end of the day. So I think it is also, decentralization is a very important thing to be able to help also at the local level decision making, because even though decentralization is at the national level, but the success of it starts at the regional level. So it's a bottom up thing, and in that way, it makes it more inclusive and to realize it also more easily. Thank you.
Yeah, just to pick it up from there, I think, Patience, you've really explained the aspects of why it's important to involve everybody in any structure, be it a country, an organization, a company, anyone who is contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals could actually implement decentralization to increase the effectiveness and the productiveness of their activities. So I'm also in support of that point. Something else I'd like to add on to that is countries can also leverage decentralization to achieve some of the development targets. For instance, for our country, Kenya, there are subnational governments, which are called counties. And some of the roles that the national government used to do before are passed down to the counties to manage them from there, as opposed to managing them centrally from the national government. And then the ones which really have to be managed centrally remain with the national government. So the governments can also utilize decentralization to make progress on certain targets of the Sustainable Development Goals. Another way in which I see decentralization is according to the way the Sustainable Development Goals are structured. Sometimes the young people I come across say that Sustainable Development Goals belong to the United Nations, and the United Nations are the ones who are in charge of everything to do with SDGs. So sometimes they think that has nothing to do with them and they cannot do anything about it. However, I like to encourage my peers or other young people to know that they also have a role to play if we are to make progress towards the SDGs. And I see this as a decentralization because the United Nations has given liberty to all all individuals, organizations, countries, companies who want to make progress to the SDGs to align themselves to the goals or specific targets or indicators, and then contribute to progress in the SDGs. So something about it, and this is actually a form of decentralization. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you so much. And actually, my next question is very closely follow the last question. Last question, we talk about the relationship between decentralization and SDGs. And Patience and Arnold, you already shared a little bit opinion on that. So my next question is about how do you think decentralization can help with achieving SDG goals? Because no matter how we define it, it is considered as a more than public administration approach that is the main mechanism that works as the base for the good governance. So what's your opinion on that? How do you think that kind of system can help with achieving SDG goals?
I think when you look at the SDG goals, the end result is to end poverty, is to protect the planet, and it is to make sure that by 2030, all people are having enduring peace and prosperity. So with decentralization, this can really go a long way to achieving this aim of the SDG. For example, when making decision in such a way that, as we said at the beginning, it is inclusive. Everybody is felt in that decision, in that policy that is implemented. It is about sharing information, so much so that what will help if you have information that can help even the locals, the cities, the government, you share that with it. Because one of the challenges also that I did not mention at the beginning is this idea of competition. When you bring local government, for example, together in a project to make this development project at the end of the day, there is some sort of competition because everybody as businesses, we compete with each other to maybe be the best in our game. And in that case, they keep information or withhold information that can help to move the country ahead or even help to achieve the SDG. So sharing information is something really very important that decentralization can bring. And then listening and learning from each other is also a very important way to address the needs of those who are involved and also protecting the environment in which they live. So not only sharing information, you have to also listen to the others, listen to what they are saying, and then try to understand and learn from them. Because actually, when people argue, it's not only that you can also learn in the course of argument. So that is my point on that. Thank you.
So just to pick up on that, in my opinion, I think that decentralization is important in achieving the SDGs, given that we are able to understand the root causes of certain issues or problems that we are trying to solve with our business, our programs, or any services that we are providing. It helps the management, if for instance it's a civil society organization, to really be effective in implementing their programs so that they get the desired results, as opposed to giving a general focus on through the, and then they end up achieving um, too broad results. And so decentralization is quite helpful in making sure that we understand what exactly are we tackling, and we are getting the results that we want. This applies to countries, even to the international agencies which manage different things related to development or business. Yes, thank you, Sam.
Thank you so much, Patience and Arthur. And Patience, I think inspired from your insights. So you started with, and it's all about ending, not all about, so ending poverty. So I was thinking, yes. So actually, all the goals, or the nations, the United Nations, or all the nations of great, they are all local challenges. So there are all local challenges. So if we want to make it work, it has to be decentralized in a way that local people or the leader of local people can be part of the dialogue and can make a decision and can really know what's good and what's bad. Of course, according to the direction, the guideline from the central government, the headquarters. But yes, so my next question is about what does implementing the SDG involves, and how can we guard against a failure and strengthen the odds that we will achieve the sustainable and just future envisioned in the SDGs. Patience, you are on mute.
Sorry.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah, okay, sorry for that. So I strongly think the way to implement this SDG, what it would take to implement this SDG is first commitment. People should really be committed to what they envisage, be it for their business, for their city, for their local council, or for their government, regions, continent, what they really, which SDGs they want to really focus on, and then really commit to achieving that. Then they also have to set priorities. Which ones should we go first? Should we go first to ensure that women are inclusive, or should we go first with education and make sure that everybody, first of all, know what these SDGs are all about? And then you have inclusive policy, because as I said from the beginning, if people feel excluded, they won't commit. So you have to bring in inclusive policy and functional institutions. Functional institutions, why? Because you see some institutions, they are only there for the name. It doesn't help anybody or is of no good. But so the institutions that are in place should actually be functional. Then we can also integrate the SDG in our development plans for the government, for our local government, for our cities, for the nation, for the continent as well. And then we have to also engage local, regional, and international trade. This is really very important, because trade, for me, when I'm talking about trade, I'm really so passionate about, because this is what we really try to uphold with our organization, EuroAfrique Link. We really strongly feel that the way to empower smallholder farmers is to help them with access to market, not only international market, but also local, regional. Because with trade, they will be able to have a steady income and a decent job. And with the money they will create from trade, it will be able to help them really do things that they could not have otherwise done. So I am really not in favor of too much in favor of developmental help, if that is the case. But what I really want is for international organizations to help trade. give that financial empowerment in the hands of the local people for them to make their own conscious decision. And I think trade is really a powerful way of doing that. And this will also help to reduce extreme poverty and also reduce inequality, especially with the African continent, where you have seen that women actually made up more businesses than men. So if you empower African with trade, you are actually empowering women, and that is precisely SDG 5, and then decent job SDG 8. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Patience. Yeah, that point very important. I'd also like to add some of my thoughts into that. First, I think we should integrate the Sustainable Development Goals in our work, in our programs, in our development programs, so that we are aligned to the goals or to the targets. For our country, we usually have county integrated development plans, and the counties are overseen by the Council of Governors, which in a forum that I've attended, they have indicated that they have mandated all the counties to align themselves to the SDGs and ensure that they are actually providing resources for that and measuring the progress that is made and reporting back to the State Department responsible for planning. Secondly, I would encourage partnerships or synergy amongst different players or actors or people who are interested in that same objective which the business is pursuing or the organization or country is interested in. When people work together, they can achieve much more than when people work in silos or independently. And the impact can be magnified tenfold just by implementing partnerships. And that is why I think SDG number 17 is quite important. And in any setting, it always forms the basis of success in what we undertake. Thirdly, I'd like to mention inclusivity. Ensuring that people, regardless of their geographical location, regardless of their gender, regardless of their ability, whether they are differently abled, regardless of their socioeconomic status, they are included in different aspects related to sustainable development. That is how we are going to achieve the SDGs, by including everybody, regardless of the differences which make us diverse. Even the aspect of culture. We come from different cultures, and if we can incorporate everybody in development processes of what their culture is, we are actually going to make progress. And lastly, I'd like to mention justice, ensuring that everybody has access to justice when something happens to them, or for instance, let's say we saw quite a number of cases of gender-based violence in the pandemic period, and some of those processes in other countries were quite slow for the victims, for the people who undergo gender-based violence to even get justice in the first place. And this applies to all forms of violence that happen to anyone. Everyone should be able to access justice wherever whatever happens to be. And also, we need to underline peace in all our endeavors. I know that we have challenges of war currently, and we feel that we are not making progress sometimes. However, I encourage peace in everything that we do as organizations, as countries, and even as a global community, because peace also contributes to successful partnerships, which anchor the SDGs. Thank you, Sami.
Thank you so much. Also, some very important points from both of you. Patience, when you talk about trade, which you are so passionate about, I think it's so important. And this reminded me, something, trade plus technology, because I remember, because in China right now, we have a very popular way of doing international trade, which is called live streaming. So basically with a celebrity or like how to say, influencers sitting there and live stream and to sell some goods either from Cameroon or from somewhere in Germany. So I was reminded somehow that the coffee beans in Cameroon, in a very, very original way and in a pocket, was very, very popular in one influencer's live streaming room. So, and it was because we are a very populous country here in China, right? So I think it's thousands of packages of coffee beans sold out in 3 or 4 minutes. And this is so interesting that you consider how the the farmers in Cameroon who is growing coffee beans, and suddenly they can really access to gain what they should gain through technology and through trade. And I think that's would be very, very helpful to help achieving the SDG goals, like ending poverty. So I think it's a very, very important, trade and technology, as you mentioned. And Arnold mentioned about partnership and the cultural issues. So which bring me to the next question. We can discuss about this, because right now the world we are living today is full of different kind of challenges maybe we didn't even envision. So we somehow fully aware, as a civilized society in 21st century, that cooperation and globalization is always the key to solve the global challenges facing mankind. Like a pandemic, we need to work together to get through that, right? But in action, somehow we are stepping away from globalization. So one of many reasons is that in today's world, we have different kind of system coexists, and there are so many kind of this misunderstanding. So how do we make sure that a decentralized mechanism can be implemented in different countries in the effort to achieve the SDG goals? Or do you think even it's a mechanism universal?
Okay, I think, in my opinion, the mechanisms that can really help to in different countries in such a way that we can help us achieve the SDG. For me, first, is that of trust. I really want to emphasize on this issue of trust, because, as I said, if countries come together to achieve, say, for example, climate change, and then we agree on certain policy that, okay, we reduce this emission like this and this, and we agree all on that, we should be able to trust each other that what we said at this meeting we will be able to do. And this is really something that really binds in everything that we do, be it family, be it business, a relation. Trust is the core. Do we trust each other that what we are doing, what we have set to achieve, we will really achieve? Are you really committed to doing that? And then another way I look at it also is in terms of collaboration, because come to think of it, no country is an island or no organization is an island. You need to be able to collaborate with people, and there you can see this in SDG 17, the globalization. But then the problem also is with collaboration is a little bit tricky, because when countries come together, they tend to compete with each other instead of moving forward. And that is the lesson, the rate at which we could achieve this competition and the SDG, sorry. And then another thing is also this aspect of different languages. Of course, we speak different languages, but it hasn't really stopped us from working together. But I'm just looking in terms of when you have to put these different countries together, they say one thing, you understand it differently. This can also be a way where it can even slow down. So when we try to be in an atmosphere where we can trust each other, try to understand where the other is coming, and taking into consideration this cultural aspect, I think it would be a really amazing way to achieve our SDG. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that, Patience. And in addition to that, I would like to highlight the aspect of accountability and taking responsibility as various countries or players who are contributing to the SDGs. If we are accountable to what we promise to do, and we make efforts to make sure that we achieve that, it will go a long way in ensuring that we implement the decentralized system that will help us achieve the SDGs. Most times you might hear that people make commitments or promises and end up not delivering or realizing or implementing what they promise to do. But if we can have an accountability mechanism within the decentralized systems, it can be at or at national levels, it will help in ensuring that we hold the people responsible, we hold them to responsibility to their commitments and targets, and that will go a long way in helping make progress towards the SDGs. Thank you, Sami.
Thank you so much. I totally agree with trust, which I think maybe it's one of the most difficult thing for all the countries to to trust one another and really deliver what they said. So maybe we have a long way to go, but the beginning is always that that we believe it can be. So my next question is about the decentralization in the energy sector. So the energy transition, or the shift from fossil fuels to renewable sources, is a major step in the fight against climate change and environmental pollution. So what do you think about decentralizing the energy sector? Will it help break the monopoly some countries or companies hold over the sector?
I strongly believe that decentralizing the energy sector is really an important way to go about, and also helping to achieve these SDG goals. If you take, for example, the energy that is being generated, if we can diverse the sources of how we acquire energy today, it will really be very helpful. Say, for example, we use solar, we use wind, we use all these other sources of energy that, and then we also make sure that we give the powers also to the local communities to be able to get involved or even produce it at their produce it at the particular region where the end users are, it will really help them to be able to acquire this energy for their businesses. If you take the case of Africa, for example, you see that, as I said earlier, the only way to be able to distribute energy to all the communities or all end users of electricity will be through decentralization, as it will not only be reliable only on the central government again, because as I said earlier, there are so many challenges. First of all, how to maximize the energy content of this available fuel, and how to do this transmission line, and also even the electricity theft that occurs with the central line. Everybody is trying to get a little bit, which is not the best, which is also a dangerous practice to begin with. So in that case, decentralizing it will really reduce the monopoly of the state power on this, and it will also enable end users to be able to maybe devise other means of acquiring it, because of course electricity is expensive. So when you decentralize it, it gives the power now to end user, for the owner of this local electricity power, to decide on how the payment should be done. Should end users pay as they go? Should they pay per month? Should they pay per week? This also gives it this possibility for everybody to get engaged and reduce the too much dependence on charcoal, and cutting down the trees to generate heat or power for themselves. So I think it will really be a very nice way to really just give power back to the people, and for them to make conscious decision of what they think is really very important to them. Thank you.
Just to pick up from there, I'm also a great supporter of renewable sources of energy. I can't wait to see that we are able to transition to clean sources of energy, possibly by 2030. I hope I hope we'll manage to hit the target. However, I strongly support that energy be decentralized, and especially when we are looking at clean sources of energy, which include solar, wind, hydropower. It can be liquid or solid biofuels, biogas, or geothermal energy. It will give the power, as Patience has said, it's going to give the power to those people within the locality to be able also to contribute to those targets of ensuring that we realize clean sources of energy that are not because clean sources of energy, actually they do not emit greenhouse gases to the atmosphere, and that is good for the environment and for the health of the people living around the place. That is what I would say regarding that, Sami.
Thank you so much. And I wish have the same wish as well, Arnold, in 2030. Hopefully we can have all goals realized. So imagine what a world it can be. So my next question, actually, I think Arnold, you mentioned before about, the younger generation and about technology. So my next question is about, how do you think the young generation can be more involved and make a difference? And with technology, be the effective tools for the young generation to really make contribution in delivering the goals.
So maybe I can
Yes.
take that first. I'm very passionate about young people involvement in SDGs processes, which is the motivation behind the foundation of the youth organization called Champions for Sustainable Development Goals, which I lead here in Kenya. And if you look at the population of young people, let me use the case of my country, Kenya. The most recent census showed that young people comprise 75% of the population. Those are young people below the ages of 35 years. And you see, that is 3/4 of the population. And you can imagine the power that they have within themselves if they can tap onto their creativity and the technology of the present day to innovate for the SDGs. It is going to go into issues that we face. For instance, we've seen technology come in very handy during the times of the pandemic. For instance, things such as virtual conferencing, like what we are doing here today. I'm able to interact with you, Sami, in Asia, and participants from different parts of Africa and Asia and other continents, and patients as well. You see, the possibilities that come with technology are limitless, and young people have the creativity and they have what it takes. Sometimes they just need to be given the tools or the resources or the environment. If they are within a school, they can be facilitated with mentors, for example, to come and speak to them about professional issues that they are technology. If they're interested in programming, they can create applications that can solve certain issues that contribute to the SDGs. So that aspect of innovation is tackled under SDG number 9, which is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. And most at times you find that the young children or learners or young people in general who are in learning institutions, especially in the global south, they lack access to infrastructure that could enable them harness their potential to innovate and come up with solutions that could change the world. There is a solution that was formed to solve the issue of mobile money called M-Pesa, started from Kenya and currently changing how to send money, and it helps. It has been able to tackle the problem of even people in the grassroots being able to use it using a USSD code, just simple means without use of internet, and a great technology that has solved an issue that people had grappled with for quite a long time. So I would say quite a lot about that topic, but I just like to underline that it is important to make sure that young people are involved in all steps of, if it is a program that is being implemented, or if it's anything that concerns young people. Young people should be there in the planning, implementation, monitoring and review, and even in subsequent phases of programs. If they can take the lead, the better, because there is the power of peer influence, because young people trust their fellow young people more. And if a fellow young person can empower another young person with knowledge, they are more likely to absorb it and use it, and also replicate it in the different spaces. So we can leverage this for the SDGs. Thank you, Sami.
Okay, just to pick up from where Arnold left, I totally agree with you, and I am also really very happy to see how passionate you are about this issue of youth. So, if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, it is estimated that 70% of the population are youth, and this is a powerful force to ensure economic growth. So just as Arnold said, the youth can really help to achieve this SDG in the case of implementation, in monitoring, and most importantly, in holding the government officials accountable or the local authority accountable. Everybody who is putting in place this SDG in their locality accountable. And this is really a very powerful way to go about it. So, with political commitment and adequate resources, coupled with the talent and creativity of these young people, I think we can really achieve this our SDG goals with the time limit that we have set for ourselves. Also, when you talk of technology, I look at it also in terms of like the digital platforms that we can use to teach youth in school about the SDGs and how to go about it. Also, with digital skills and innovation, youth can be asked to maybe develop mobile apps that can solve a particular problem and then use that mobile app later, like business later, use it now to solve problems not only in the regions where they are located, but also in other African countries and not why not in the world. So you have also e-learning that we can use, and the youth are really very active and creative in that. And in that case, we can also bring in diaspora to be able to share the knowledge that they have with the youth. In that case, they will really have a complete picture. When I take the case of Africa and maybe the Europeans, in that case, we can teach them, for example, how to trade, how to have this entrepreneurial mindset in such a way that when you leave school, you don't only look for jobs, but you can create jobs and also employ other people. So this is how I look at how youth can really contribute to helping us achieve this SDG because they are the core. They are very energetic, very active, and engaging them, making their voice heard. I think this will be a very powerful way and a faster way for us to move ahead with achieving this our goals. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you so much. And I think you guys mentioned also some very important points, and agree with your patience. It's always great to see that young people like Arnold are so enthusiasm about the SDGs. So I think one of the most important things that to really bring young people in is that to show them one, it's that it is urgent. The other thing is that we can always make them feel, part of and have fun and also interested in it. So I think it's so important. And the other thing about technology, Arnold, you mentioned, it's like, where we are sitting right now, it's, from different countries around the world. What is the element that making this happen is the technology, is the digital transformation. So I think technology really bring people together, and we are all informed in a way, and that's part of the education. As patients, you mentioned about trade, about really enable people to understand that you are not only you can just after graduation you work for other people, you can also be a boss, create jobs. So just to think out of the box. So technology can really help with that as well. So that's just share some of my comments on that. And we already have a lot of questions asked by the audience, but we have only like 17 minutes to go. So allow me to continue with the questions we have. My next question is, can you share with your experience when local people are more involved in the implementation plan, the goals are more easier to reach? Or share with us some like successful cases of the SDG goals that are incorporated or exited in a very effective way, the successful stories.
So, okay, the one of the successful story that we have is this shea butter from northern Uganda, and we try to trade this butter in the EU market. You know, with the shea trees, this the charcoal that people get from the shea trees, they like to sell that one because for some reason this charcoal is more resistant, it lasts longer. But with the share trade that we are encouraging, we want to make people understand that instead of cutting down the trees, you can instead harvest the nuts and then produce butter from it and then sell to the world market. In that way, you will have a sustainable trade because you'll be harvesting these nuts continuously and having trade. But if you cut the trees, then it's gone. When you sell that one, you have maybe the 10,000 or how many thousand euros you get from cutting the trees. That is gone. The trees will not come back again. So what we are really encouraging is that preserve this tree. You will have more preserving these trees than cutting them. When you harvest the nuts, even the waste of this nuts, you can also reuse it like manure, and which will bring you extra money. And that is where we stand. And then the locals, they also try to see that and bring in again technology to be able to make sure that this butter really meets EU standards, really makes it all the difference. Because come to think of it, people would like to produce sustainable. But the problem is if they don't have access to market, it will be really very difficult for you to make them be committed in sustainable production. Because come to think of it, sustainable production is not cheap. When they have access to market, they know that what I produce, I will be able to sell. I have buyers for that, or somebody who can connect me to buyers. It really makes them more committed to be able to do that. And our case of the Nilotica shea butter is really an amazing example of how we can really involve the locals to take part also in this SDG, because preserving the trees and the environment in which we live is really one of the SDGs that we can really is easily attainable. Thank you.
Yes, Patience, you've highlighted those aspects very well. I'd just like to add one thing. The SDGs are also have 5 Ps which shape them, and those 5 Ps are people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. And in my opinion, people are very important in those aspects of the SDGs, and how we measure progress that we make in the realization of the goals. And why it is important to decentralize is because it brings about ownership in the efforts that we are making. And when there is ownership, the people involved do their best. And that means we are able to achieve the best results. And that is why it is important for us in achieving the SDGs. Back to you, Sami.
Thank you so much. We are really having very limited time, but I see so many questions coming in. I will just finalize my last question, and then we'll just quickly go over the question asked in the public chat. So my last question from my side is: few of us have ever imagined that we will live in this pandemic world and back into war in 21st century. So it's difficult to predict what is the future ahead of us. So, but one thing for sure is that we cannot stop working together and always find the right solution together and always find a common ground. So to envision the future in 2030, what will be, where will be in terms of achieving the SDG goals? What do you guys think?
I strongly think that because of the pandemic and now the war in Ukraine, it has really distracted us a little bit from our goals to achieve our SDG. But I think we really have to focus. But it's also difficult for you to focus when there is war. I myself, I never imagined that I will ever witness a war in my lifetime. But then setting realistic targets will be a way for us to be able to refocus our attention back to what we were doing, even though we are also trying to address the current issues that is going on. So we have to choose wisely and try to make sure that we achieve the goal. If we say, for example, in Africa, we want to go for zero hunger or reduce poverty, we really should try to focus on that. Again, we can also try to look at the environmental aspect of the SDG, because I think this is really very easy to achieve. For example, like healthy ocean, well-being, economic equity, and also responsible for our natural resources. For the loss of all this undermines the climate change efforts that we have really put in all this while. And I also want to also say that reducing the risk of some of I want to also say that the potential of achieving this goal is actually to see to see the potential synergies and the trade-off in achieving these goals. What can we forego in order to achieve this? This is something that we should look at it carefully and really help us to think in a systemic way how in as much as we want to achieve this goal, we can really incorporate also the other along as we go. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Patience, for that. And in addition, the SDGs can also be looked at as a cake with 3 layers. And the first layer is environmental, the second one is society, and the other one is economy or economic aspects of the SDGs. And the very first one, the environment, is very important in making sure that we realize the socio and economic aspects of the SDGs. And therefore, it would be great for all of us to make efforts towards the goals that are related to the environment. And these are 4. The one for clean water and sanitation, that is SDG number 6. Climate action, number 13. 15, life on land. And if we do not take care of those, the cake is going to crumble. So we might not achieve all the targets of these goals by 2030. However, I hope that we would have made significant progress, especially in reducing the emissions of greenhouse gases and all those aspects that are causing negative impacts as a result of climate change. I believe we have reduced that to a certain extent. However, it might not be fully, but other aspects of the economic and social goals, which are about decent work, industry, inequalities, and responsible production and consumption, we also might have made significant progress in those goals. But all we can say is let's do our best, because we have how many years? This is 2022, so it's like 8 years, and we are calling this the decade of action for SDGs. So we literally need to do everything we can so that we can achieve the much that we can by 2030. Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you so much, Arnold and Patience. Let's just look at some questions asked by the audience. The first question is, do you think we can achieve the SDG by technological progress, or do we need to completely change our behaviors? What do you guys think?
I think for me, both are very important. We need technology. We can't ignore the fact that technology, we have seen it, as I said, with the pandemic, how technology really helped us to share the information about what is going on, show cases of what is happening in other countries for us to adjust our behavior. So technology and behavior are intertwined. We can't really do one without the other. So with both, we'll be able to move ahead and achieve our goal. That is my take on it. Thanks.
I would say the same. Technology is important for us to make progress towards the SDGs, given that you've seen the things that technology has helped us to, even developing the vaccines or connecting people during lockdowns and enabling learning in institutions without people having to go physically, and many solutions can be developed out of technology. So yes, we need to embrace technology, change behavior towards it, and use both of them to their advantage so that we make progress. Thank you.
Yes, I agree totally. And the next question that we didn't even we covered a little bit. So, but the guest asked, the audience asked that culture is key, I think. So there are so many misunderstandings. How to make dialogue better? I think we mentioned this topic a little bit, but to say it is a key in a way that because right now in a world with war happening, with the world polarizing, with different kind of system, a different kind of culture, so there are, yes, sure, some misunderstandings. So how do you think we can make dialogue better?
I think we can make dialogue better by being transparent. Transparency is actually key to everything. Of course, culture really do differ, because when you take, for example, a technology, the way we implement it in Europe, and then you transfer that technology exactly word for word in Africa, it won't work, because that is not the context, and the people do not really perceive it the way the Europeans do. So in that way, it is really very important that to ensure dialogue and an open conversation, we also have to bring into context the inclusivity in this dialogue, making sure that you take the cultural aspect into consideration. For example, when you are talking about Africa and how they can achieve these SDGs, comparatively when you're talking to about Europe and how they can achieve it. These are two different continents, and their approach and culture is a little bit different. But in the course of dialogue and open conversation and being honest to each other, I think it would be a very better way to go about carrying out dialogue about the SDG and achieving it. Thank you.
Thank you, Patience. I would also say the same. It's important for us to acknowledge that our global society right now is diverse with different cultures, and we respect that fact, and then we use it to our advantage by customizing solutions and by making sure that people from different cultures also feel involved in everything that we do. Have dialogues that are inclusive of people from different cultures. Yeah, that is what I would say, Sam.
Okay, thank you so much. And for all the points and all the questions you answered, I don't think we have much time left. So allow me to present some gifts to you guys in the end. So allow me to share my screen, and then you guys can see. Wait a second. Yes. So we have saying that for every fight you take, consider planting trees in Africa. So EU Tech Chamber, together with the Climate Action Partnership Program, is helping with rebuild animal habitat, restoring soil. and critical watersheds, all while improving the lives of the communities who rely on the forests the most. So on behalf of the EU Tech Chamber, we plan 1 tree for patients and 1 tree for Arnold in Africa. And the tree certificates I will present to you guys later in email. So time flies. It is a great pleasure to have invited both of you to the webinar, and it is a great discussion. We have a lot of questions that didn't answer the audience yet, but time is too limited. We will try to answer it next time. So thank you so much for participation, Arnold and patients. And thank you all for the audience who participate today as well. So hope in 2030 all the goals can be achieved, or at least most of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. It's been a pleasure.
Bye bye. Bye bye, guys. Yeah.
Bye.